We begin tonight in Ukraine, where the first ship carrying Ukrainian grain has departed from the port of Odessa under an international deal between Kyiv and Moscow. The Ratsoni is a Sierra Leone flagged vessel carrying more than 26,000 tons of corn. The agreement for a safe passage was brokered by the UN and Turkey in a bid to avoid a global food crisis. While the much-needed grain exports will be welcomed, the war in Ukraine rages on. Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson has this report.
She's called the Ratsoni and seen here bound for Lebanon in the Middle East with over 26,000 tons of corn on board. The Sierra Leone registered ship is the first of an armada of vessels needed to move 25 million tons of grain stockpiled in southern Ukrainian ports like Odessa. The Ratsoni's departure follows a deal brokered last month between Russia, Ukraine, Turkey and the UN to lift a Russian blockade. And it's now hoped desperately needed maize, wheat and sunflower oil will begin to start flowing to where it's needed most, like East and North Africa. Elsewhere in southern Ukraine, the city of Mykolaiv has once again come under attack from Russian rockets. Dozens of civilians have died here already, part of a process designed to hit Ukrainian morale and send a signal Russia can strike anywhere at will. The shelling killed one of Ukraine's wealthiest men, Alexei Vadotursky, and his wife Raisa. Vadotursky headed a grain production and export business.
Стратегічно у Росії немає шансів перемогти в цій війні.
Ukraine's President Zelensky offered his condolences and added, strategically, Russia has no chance of winning this war. It's essential to hold on, he said, in the south, the east and everywhere. We must hold on in defense, diplomacy and politics. Meanwhile, the Russian Navy has been playing mock war games as part of its Navy Day celebrations, a show of strength, propaganda, when it's already fighting a real war in Ukraine. John Cookson, Arise News.
And John Cookson joins me now for the latest. Good to see you, John. Just tell us about the movement of this grain ship so far. I mean, this is a small but significant first step, isn't it? But a very fragile route out of Odessa.
Very much so, being tracked by Russian warships, and also the Ukrainians are keeping an eye on the passage of this ship. It should arrive in Istanbul around tomorrow, if all goes well. These are dangerous seas, though, Charles. They've been mined extensively by the Ukrainians, and somehow they cobbled together some insurance to get this ship underway. It's insured, incidentally, through Lloyd's of London. There are 16 other ships waiting now in Odessa, fully loaded already with wheat and maize and other desperately needed grain supplies. And the crews are available. Apparently around 200 crew are available to sail these ships. So it is an important first step, baby step, if you like, along the way. The Kremlin tonight calling it a very positive mood. And the Turkey saying that more ships will follow. The UK's Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, says this is an important first step. So the big question now is, let's hope that this ship arrives safely in the Turkish port and then pass through the Bosphorus and on the way to the Mediterranean and to Lebanon, which, is a completely different story. Is again, Lebanon, following an explosion at its port a couple of years ago, and the collapse of grain towers today and yesterday in Beirut. I mean, they're absolutely desperate for grain. So hopefully the people of Lebanon will get what they need. But the main point to make is this is an important first step. It depends how others will follow, whether the crews are there, whether the insurance is there, and whether the Russians, crucially, will allow a safe passage of ships through the Black Sea. Charles.
And John, today's development underlines the extent to which the war in Ukraine is a global conflict in terms of impact, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mentioned Lebanon there, but the food shortages are across various parts of the world, not least Africa and East Africa in particular, Kenya, Somalia, and other countries down that east coast are desperate for food. The UN saying in some regions around 50% of the population are short of food. It is impacting hugely on the rest of the world. And look, this is not going to be a quick fix. There's 25 million tons of grain already are waiting to be shipped. They moved 26,000 tons today. Can you imagine how many more ships? I mentioned an armada in my report. It will take an armada to shift the grain. And of course, there's more grain arriving as well to be stored following the harvest in Ukraine. But so, yes, it is impacting throughout the world, but the shortages will continue because it's going to take months for these grain supplies to get to where they're desperately needed.
But John, clearly this does not mark a relaxation in wider hostilities, does it? I mean, or could it be, I mean, could this be the opening of a partial door to a resolution of this conflict?
I'd like to say yes, but my heart, and both my heart and my head says no. I think Russia is in this for the long haul as far as retaking Ukraine. That's Putin's overall plan. And he doesn't mind if he takes years to do that. I think he's allowing this to happen because it was a deal brokered by the UN. It helps to give Russia the moral high ground. But overall, when you see what else is happening in Ukraine with battlefronts in the Kherson region, in Kharkiv, and in the Donbass region, there's still very active hot wars going on there. So no relaxation of the Russian pressure there from a military point of view.
And John, you mentioned this in your report. One of Ukraine's richest businessmen killed by a Russian missile in Mykolaiv. I mean, is there a sense that he was deliberately targeted by Moscow?
I've seen reports today that says Mr. Volotersky and his wife were deliberately targeted. They were taking shelter in a building and they were down in the basement of the building. So it was extremely bad luck, if you like, for that couple to lose their lives. I mean, they took all the precautions. They heard the air raid warnings and they took shelter. Whether they were deliberately targeted by the Russians, it's hard to say, but he was involved in the grain trade and was one of Ukraine's richest men, a close ally of the President Zelensky. So from a Russian point of view, that was a massive strike for them. And if it was deliberate, then it shows that the Russians can strike with impunity and with accuracy in Mykolaiv. Mykolaiv, I was there in March, and it's a charming city on the southern Bug River down there, a bustling city normally, people enjoying their lives, but the place has been rocketed almost every day since the Russian invasion on February the 24th, and dozens of people have died in that city, and Mr. Volotersky and his wife are just the latest casualties. Charles.
And John, we've heard President Zelensky calling on residents of that eastern Donbass region to evacuate as soon as possible. Is this an indication that a counter-offensive is imminent in that region, or is it the Russians who are planning further attacks?
I think it's Russians planning further attacks. There are 200,000 people to evacuate. 50,000 of those are children. And Zelensky saying, look, it's going to get worse before it gets better, before we can, retake this region. Remembering it's in the Donbass region where the Russians have been for a long time now, and to retake that region will take a lot of effort and a lot of military might by the Ukrainians to secure it. So it's a precaution, Charles, to shift these people out of the danger zone, and tells us really what I said earlier in this conversation, that the Russians are looking for this to take months, if not if not years, and the conflict is going to get worse before it gets better. Charles.
John, thank you so much for your excellent reporting there and for that brilliant package that we heard earlier. John Cookson is Arise chief correspondent, and he's been monitoring developments in Ukraine.